Dan from Saxcast.com here, and today we're going to be covering why your low notes might not be speaking how you want them to. So, low notes are very tricky, and the first thing you want to check is your instrument working as it should be? So you can either get to a local technician, a repair guy, or a local teacher, and just check that you've got all of these pads are properly sealing all of the time. Now, if you follow all of my tips in this video, you should be able to play those low notes even if you have got slight leaks, and most saxes do have slight leaks actually, so don't worry too much about that. So why are low notes actually challenging them? Well, the reed, when you play a low note, especially if you think about the whole tube being closed, so maybe a low B flat here, we're actually taking all of the air from the very tip right through to the very bottom of the sax. And it's quite a long way, you know, it's a long tube, it's a lot of air for us to follow. So we need to make sure that our embouchure, so our shape of our mouth, our tongue, our throat, is very, very consistent, that we've built up over time a fundamental kind of understanding of what I'm wanting to do with my mouth here, so that nothing funny is happening. When the reed is actually vibrating that slowly, and it is vibrating very, very slowly as well, so you've got to watch out for that, that the reed's vibrating slow, so we have to put all the right conditions in the right places to make that reed actually happen. Also, the thing that we kind of get with low notes is that squeaks happen a lot more regularly than honks. So it's much easier to kind of squeeze too hard and make a high note happen, rather than, you know, going, oh, I want to be flat, and all of a sudden really low notes coming out. That just doesn't happen. So we need to watch out for these things. So what can be causing you these issues then? Well, the top reasons, so my first one is too much tension. Are you too tense when you're playing? Loads of people like this. Now, we've all done this. We really want to be good. We want to be a great saxophone player. We want to impress our friends, or we want to sound good, or we're trying to impress the wife, and we end up squeezing and trying so hard, so I'm playing almost like with this determination that's going to make things happen. And the thing is, when I'm playing low notes, well, the reed's vibrating slow though, so if I'm putting loads of pressure on this mouthpiece, then that's going to get in the way. So the first thing is, relax. Manage your expectations that, you know what, I've not played low B flat very much, I've not played it, you know, especially very, very quietly, so I'm just going to relax into this and go, okay, so B flat, how do I play it? So we manage our expectations. So it might be that I'm trying to get down to maybe not even low B flat, I might go to low C. So I'm going to play a C major scale or some kind of run from C, and I'm going to start quite high, and then I'm going to walk slowly down. And as I walk down my scale, I know that I'm heading towards that low C at the bottom, and as I go down, I know what it sounds like, so I'm expecting it to sound like something else, and I'm not thinking about how hard it is to play that low C. So I'm going to chill out, and that's going to really help these notes speak because I'm a lot more relaxed. So that's your first thing, really. Chill out, don't be too tense when you're trying to play these notes, just relax as much as you can. The next thing is the shoulders. Shoulders are a big deal when we play. A lot of people tend to shrug their shoulders when they're playing. They're like, oh, I really want to play well. It kind of relates to the tension thing. I'm shrugging my shoulders, but the minute if you just do this for me at home now, when you're sat there, bring your shoulders up and breathe. I can't breathe. All of a sudden, I just can't breathe because my shoulders are in the way. So keep your shoulders down. When I'm playing down here, I'm making sure that my shoulders are definitely down and they're not coming up, because if they come up, I get all these kind of strange sounds happen. So make sure that your shoulders are definitely sunk and in a relaxed position. The next thing might be that when you're trying to play these low notes, or in fact throughout the entire range of the sax, that we're squeezing too hard and our embouchure is actually far too tight. So don't play with a really tight embouchure. You'll kind of hear this sort of pinch sound. If your sound isn't great or you're not happy with your sound, then this could be the reason why. That actually we're putting too much pressure on the mouthpiece and we're squeezing too tight. So on that low note, if I squeeze hard, you're going to get a sound like that. You're going to get this overtone rather than the note we want. So we really don't want to be squeezing, so we're being really relaxed with this. Number 4 is that we might not be breathing properly. Make sure that we're definitely filling our stomachs full of air when we breathe in. I'm really thinking about filling my lungs up, and then I'm slowly squeezing the air out of me. I'm letting the air sort of draw itself out, be pushed out by the muscles that are around the diaphragm is contracting. And every time I breathe in, and then I'm just pushing on this kind of like balloon of air that I'm just pushing out of my diaphragm as I go up. So always think about breathing in. One way I always teach in the Saxcast Fundamental program, and this is from very day one, if you want to play saxophone properly, the Saxophone Fundamentals over at Saxcast is the greatest way that you can do, because it goes through step by step what you should be doing. So all these problems have been solved early on. We're not coming back to them later and going, well, why isn't this happening? Because we've learnt in the right way. So if you've been following those kind of techniques, and what we talk about is this way of, as I breathe in, I'm breathing in through the mouth and I'm allowing my stomach to come out. I breathe in, my stomach comes out. As I breathe back in, as I breathe out rather, I bring my stomach in. So it's helping activate. We can't activate our diaphragm with our minds, but it kind of does it automatically. So what we want to do is think about activating the muscles around the diaphragm, and that'll bring the diaphragm up. So it'll allow that air to come up slowly, just pushing that air up gradually as I'm bringing my stomach in. Point number 5 is all about a narrow throat. Is your throat too narrow? For low notes, we need our throat to be open. The reason for this is that if we imagine our throat is this kind of shape, we're bringing in loads of air, so we're blowing this lovely supportive column of air through. If I then make my throat narrow, well, that column of air is still the same, right? It's going to go through a narrow tube and it's going to go through really quick, too fast to make this reed vibrate slowly, and instead you get the higher sound. So always play with an open throat. Now, how do you know if your throat is open when you're playing? This is a really difficult one. Well, we've got a video on Saxcast called How to Be a Crook Champion. That's in the Fundamentals 2 in the early stage 1. And that's all about being able to manipulate just the mouthpiece alone. So you can grab either just your mouthpiece or the crook and the mouthpiece together. Just use that little portion and try and actually bring the sound down. So when you've got a normal embouchure and you blow, you make this certain sound. As you open up your throat, you'll find that the sound dips. So feel free to go and check that lesson out on Saxcast as well. For now, what we're going to think about doing though is if I raise my eyebrows, can you feel the effect that that has on my throat? So just at home now, if you just raise your eyebrows up, can you feel how your throat's kind of gone from this, if I'm nice and relaxed, to, oh, I'm surprised. That surprised kind of look is what it feels like when your throat is very sort of tight and together. And when I'm thinking about, oh, I'm going to play this low note's definitely going to come out this time, well, that's exactly what I'm doing to my throat. My throat's narrowing, so I need to watch out that I'm not doing that. So we often go from a sort of a this kind of tight throat to a like a or an e to a o, e, o. Now that's really low. So that o, that's a really wide open throat. That's going to allow the air to come through evenly and widely, and also slow enough so that we can make the reed vibrate slowly for things like B flat and stuff like that. Point number 6 is all about this warm versus cold air. Now, warm versus cold air, what on earth is that? Well, cold air is really fast air. The faster the air moves, the colder it is. So if you take your hand and you blow on it as fast as you can, really fast, hard jet of air, well, that's going to be cold, and you can feel it on your hand. Cold, right? That cold air is really good for high notes. If I've got a really high note and I'm blasting out really quickly and I want the reed to vibrate really fast, well, that's going to be cold air. So raise the eyebrows a little bit. Get that air moving really, really quickly. And that'll give us a big, fast and kind of harsh sound if we want that. So it's a tool to use. It's not wrong, but it's not great for low notes as well. Our low notes, on the other hand, need to be this warmer air sound. So how do we get a warmer air shape? If we get a warm air shape, how do we do that? Well, just imagine trying to blow on your hand as if you were sort of, I don't know, fogging a pane of glass or cleaning your glasses like my students need at the moment. Blow on your back hand. Ha, 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 ha. So jet of air versus slow stream. Now that warmer air is going to give us all the conditions we need to get these lower notes to speak. So have an experiment with warmer and colder air when you're playing the low notes, and you'll find that the warmer air will certainly give you a better chance of getting these lower notes out. Okay, so the next thing is consistency. Consistency is absolutely key here. So have you played these notes enough? This is one of the points really, that can you keep your embouchure in the same place for the same amount of time? If you're playing a long note at the bottom, especially a low C, a low D flat, have you ever had it when it started to wobble? The note's almost gone, you know, you don't want it to, but the note started to wobble, almost phasing between a higher note and a lower note. Well, that's because we've not worked these muscles enough to gain that kind of consistency, especially in a longer piece of music or a longer phrase. We want to be able to work these muscles. How do you work these muscles? Well, through long tones, through scale practice, through playing pieces, just through playing lots and lots and lots in the right way and working all these different muscles. Even doing holding face shapes, like really an exaggerated grin. I'm so happy when I play saxophone. Even this activates these muscles and just hold it for 30 seconds. So I mean, it's really, I know it looks ridiculous and I'm doing this on YouTube, so how do you think I feel? But I've got this really exaggerated grin that I'm activating all of these muscles in my face and getting my face used to really working my mouth and my embouchure. Now, it's going to make your playing a lot better because these muscles are going to be more engaged and used to taking on that kind of tension. So, you know, just walk around the house like you're incredibly happy all of the time and just focus on working these muscles. It does make a big difference in terms of getting these muscles activated and actually working, and so they don't fatigue as quickly when you start playing for longer periods of time. What we've got next, we've got number 8, which is the direction of the air. Direction of the air is so important as well. Again, this is a bit of a strange one and it's difficult to kind of fathom because, I mean, ultimately when we blow, the air's coming out of our mouths, right? Of course it is. But it's what happens before it actually leaves the lips that affects how the sound is actually going to be made and how good you sound as well. So when I'm playing, I can kind of think playing, say I play just take a normal note for the minute, like a G, a normal G. And I'm going to think about where I'm firing up this air. So where is the air going? Is it going, I'm going to think about hitting sort of the ceiling with this jet there. Then I'm going to go a bit closer to you. Then I'm going to go down to the ground. So the amount of air I put through the reed there was exactly the same, but we had 3 different sort of variants in presence of the actual sound, just from me thinking about where I'm directing this air. Now the reason that is that as I start thinking about directing this airflow, I actually alter my lip position and my throat position. So when I go up there and I try and shoot, you know, this airflow into sort of the ceiling, well, my tongue starts to arc like this, my throat kind of opens a little bit more at the back. I'm like, oh, what's going to happen here? It's almost this kind of surprise sort of shape. And then they all change for this one. So that way, the tongue's a lot flatter. So when I aim straight at you guys, the tongue's flatter, the throat's just neutral. And then when I go down, the tongue kind of dips a little this time. So instead of going up like this, the tongue kind of dips because I'm wanting to aim that sound in this kind of direction. Now that's going to have a big impact on the sound. So experimenting with those 3 positions is going to make a big difference across the instrument, but also help with your low notes. I find that shooting towards the ground when you're playing low notes allows you to play very, very softly, almost a sort of subtone kind of position really. So really relax, shoot the air down to the ground, and you'll find that you'll be able to play low B flats, low Bs very, very softly on your sax. So give that a go, guys, see what you think about that one. The other thing is fingering difficulties. This is a common one actually. You know, when you play low B flat or you're playing in something like B flat minor, which we all love B flat minor, but you know, are you used to sliding your little fingers across? Are you really rigid? So you go back to the Sax fundamental course as well, and we teach you about this relaxed hand position, that we've got this curve in our fingers that's natural for the sax. Well, if I put that on my sax there, you can see how my little finger falls onto those side pads, so I can just explore these keys. But when we're thinking about low notes, this little finger often comes really rigid. We get very, very, you know, sort of effortful trying to move this around the thing, and it hurts because we don't do it very often and the little finger doesn't like roaming through these keys. So that tension comes back again. We've really got to be aware of that. So we're trying to be as relaxed as we can be, even in terms of fingering. So one tip for this then, guys, is that when you're actually playing the sax, why don't you try not actually blowing, but fingering these notes. So let's do something like B flat major, B flats and E flats in there. I'm going to walk down this scale, E flat at the bottom, D, C, D, E flat, D, C, D, E flat, D, C. Then I'll go into the other hand, B flat, C, B flat. And that's really easy. I'm not thinking about, I know I could imagine sort of blowing the notes, that's quite useful. I think about being nice and relaxed and this is easy peasy and I'm not worried about squeaking. D, C natural, low B flat. D, C natural, low B flat. I'm just getting used to my fingers walking through these notes. I might even try it with just air. So I'm going to go down the sax here and I'm not going to worry about actually playing those low B flat notes. I'm just thinking purely on focus. So if those low notes don't come out, don't worry about it. I mean, they did come out that time, but that's okay. So all I'm focusing there though, my aim is to be able to walk down that scale and make sure that my fingering is 100%. Once I'm super certain on the fingering, then I'm going to actually play the low notes and focus, take my focus away from the fingering and actually focus on making those notes speak at the right volume as well. So I'm working things individually and setting a goal. My goal is to get my fingering absolutely spot on. So if you're struggling with a low section of music and you can't play certain notes, get the fingering first. Don't worry about actually physically blowing. Get the fingering first, and then once the fingering is absolutely nailed and you're 100% on it, then start blowing the actual notes. Okay, number 10, finally we're at number 10. So number 10 is all about not spending enough time down at the bottom. We often ignore these notes. We don't play them very often. They are the extremes of the instrument. So in your practice session this week, I challenge you to make sure you're putting low notes in every single practice session. So you make sure you're always going down to the very bottom. Now, stage 6 of the Saxophone Fundamentals course is amazing for this because we've got things like patterns in scales. So we've got running fourths, running thirds, and running thirds and fourths. So we've got intervals. So we can focus some exercises on directly improving our bottom end of our saxophone. So this week I'd like you to really spend a lot more time down the bottom end of your sax, and you'll find after 1 week or 2 your low notes are becoming much more consistent just because you're spending a lot more time down there rather than trying to fix the problems when you do come across these low notes. Okay, some more fixes then, guys. So as I mentioned before, this fundamentals course in Saxcast has got tons of little technique lessons and embouchure, breathing, making sure that everything in your sax playing is right from day one, and that's so important. So Saxcast is a great resource for that. You can also do little leaps. There's lots of leaps exercises, and there's also things like pressure exercises as well to make sure that your diaphragm is actually being engaged. So what we'll do is we'll try this one for me. So this is a test really to make sure that you're supporting your sound properly. If you can't do this, then you're not supporting your sound properly. You need to work on really using that diaphragm. So I'm going to play a D, all 6 keys, and I'm going to hold it on and make sure it's really strong. And then I'm going to add my octave key, but I want to keep the low note. I don't want it to jump up the octave like it will want to do, so I don't want this. So that's what wants to happen, but I'm going to make sure that this low D stays the entire way through. And what you'll find is it's really hard work, but it'll engage these muscles and make your diaphragm work. And you'll be sure that you're actually supporting the sound properly. If this low D stays, your diaphragm is doing its job. So it sounds like this. There you go then, guys. Do you see that? So we had the note. I added the octave key on, it changed the sound of the note but not the pitch. It was really hard work, and believe me, you have to blow very, very hard to make that work. But that's a bulletproof way of making sure that your diaphragm is doing exactly what it should be. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next Saxcast video.